I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, technology gods. This is Dave.
And Mackie.
That's correct. And we are Shiny Side Out on WZZR, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on, and this is the website name, revolution.radio. It's a secret. You know what?
Shh.
Yeah, don't tell anyone. Yeah. Where it's home to fresh, unfiltered ideas and conversations. You'll find those in the chat room where I am right now. Hello, Maced139 and Comet there. Oh, and Mickey, you're there. I'm in there. No, are you there? Because I'm here.
I'm here, so you can't be here because I'm here. You are clearly over there.
That's what happens. Now, while we're on air, you can chat to us, so you can talk to us and we can talk back to you by typing back into the chat. Or, if you bring up a really good point, we can mention it sometimes on air. That's a warning. We might read out your messages. So, yeah. Anyway, it is a great way of being able to interact with our audience, Mickey. Now, guess what? You'll find
58.
those... What?
58.
Oh, down a few. It's at 42. Mickey, you knew that was the answer anyway. You're not going to like it. The unfiltered ideas and conversations, you'll find those in the chat room. And the station's website is also a great place to get your merch. Get the station's merch when that's one way to support the station. Mickey, did you know that this show number is 625?
520 at 600. No, but yes. I mean, that's like an anniversary or something, right?
Is it?
Well, it's 625. It has to be something. It's like a triple platinum, I'm sure. I'm going to look it up.
Wow, you look it up and see what the wedding gift for 625 is. Right? That'll be good. You know what? You can catch us on air, online, and anywhere on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere, or listen at home in the comfort of your own home with your feet up with a beverage on a Grace tabletop digital radio. Do that. If you miss Solaris's show, you know what? You can catch them on the archives. Just jump in the archives. The archives are free. And tonight she had Robert Guthrie, who was her guest on, and she always says great guest, yet again another great guest, and they were discussing his book Cryptopolis. It was really cool. I enjoyed. I only caught the last hour, right? So apologies for me. I'm going to catch the first hour by jumping in the archives. You should do the same thing. Remember, it's free. Now, Mackie, I'm broadcasting from Bundjalung country. Whereabouts are you?
I'm with the good direct people. And, sorry, but go on, finish it, then I'll tell you what it is.
Oh, and we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Mackie, what does 625 mean?
Okay, so 600 is a sexacentennial, and looking at 225, which is a quasi-bicentennial, so this should be a sex quas-centennial. It's a sex quib-centennial. Sex quibicentennial. Sexa quibicentennial is 625 year anniversary. That's what it's called. Hurrah!
I'm glad that didn't take 45 seconds. So,
but
what is
no
the
gift for it? It only gets to 100 years, and for 100 years you get obsidian. So sorry, that's all it is. Yes.
That's pretty sharp. If
you
break it just the right way, you can make that real super sharp.
Kill you.
Not very durable, but it's it's sharp.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So if you play Minecraft, that they don't rate the material by both how brittle it is and its strength. Yeah? Not really. So, in real life, not so much, right? You're not going to make a sword out of it. It'll just shatter on the first contact with something, but, it'll be sharp. Ooh.
That's the truth.
You know, like, Mickey, when you have two rocks and you hit one against the other in such a fashion as to be able to break small chips off it, and you can end up, flop it around the other side and do the same until both sides meet at a sharp edge. And that's what we predict the ancient ancestors of ours used for their first cutting implements. Right? Because the stone's pretty sharp, and there's plenty of them around. It just takes a bit of effort to make one, and voila, there you go, right? And you could fashion that into, if you had the right kind of, maybe, I don't know, what kind of material it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be sandstone. That would be dreadful. That'd be your first one, and you realise that was terrible.
That
And
didn't
if
work
you
at
had
all.
granite or something like that, it'll hold a reasonable edge, or like a blunt force tool. But river stones are quite good at being able to get really sharp, thin pieces off them. So you could make that for skinning, taking the fur off leather or something like that, or the meat off the bone or whatever. Yeah, that's kind of where I would place those implements.
They found a structure. I think it was the oldest structure known to us. I think it's 275,000 years old, and it's a wooden platform. That was found in Africa, and we know this is worked because it actually Zambia. That's where it found. Yeah, it's found in Zambia, and it's I was wrong. Almost 500,000 years.
Cool.
So almost 500,000 years. Now they're saying it predates the rise of Homo sapiens. Well, because we always thought that none of our so-called ancestors ever built any structures. So this is like 475,000 years old in Zambia. It's astounding. Yeah. And normally wood doesn't keep, as we all know. But in this particular area where there was a river and mud, it preserved the structure beautifully. Now, before I give you the talking stick, there's another thing I researched recently. I was just interested since you talked about stoneworking. You remember when we talked about ancient civilizations, we talked about these tiny little not pearls, but like, I guess, balls of obsidian that had tiny little holes drilled into them. Something that we have a hard time doing today because, well, obsidian can be quite brittle. Essentially it's glass. It's volcanic glass, but super sharp, like Dave said. In fact, the edge of a properly honed obsidian blade is exactly one molecule. Okay, wow. Making it the sharpest, so that it'll cut anything essentially, right? Pretty much. Well, maybe not diamond, but it's one molecule. That's the cutting edge. But they're talking about something called Solomon's shamir. Have you heard of that?
Nope.
Because I hadn't. So it's a worm, or even a substance that had the power to cut through or even disintegrate stone, iron, and even diamond. So they said that he used it to build the temple and such. Now, because I had never actually thought about it, but if you think about a worm, and it's same, like a worm-like creature that could burrow through obsidian, or maybe a substance made from the worm that could soften stone, all of a sudden,
totally.
Right? And I hadn't actually thought of this as a thing. I knew there were plants around that had been talked about in ancient times, even modern times, that could both erode metal and make stone pliable.
Yeah.
But maybe there were creatures, either engineered that way or just naturally evolved that way, that were able to work stone in that fashion. That would be fascinating if we could get to the bottom of that. It's called a shamir. Everybody.
It totally would. But, it doesn't... It's still, to me, there's a little bit of a gap. You've seen, that the rock that looks like someone has got a lightsaber and sliced it in half.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's one in the US as well.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's precariously sitting on a top of two small plinths, and it doesn't topple into each other. It's perfectly balanced, and it doesn't fall away. It's been there for quite some time, so it's still astounding to this day. And there's two of them on the planet, and they're in different countries. So, wow, okay. I keep thinking of the scoop marks. So where the stones are being quarried, or back then, wow, that's a time slip, where the stones were quarried for the Jupiter temple, and they're still laying about in the quarry, there are scoop marks that seem to just be able to be like if you had a sickle and you just went through the stone and just sliced out a chunk, like it was soft when you did it. That is something else. And
Look,
still
makes sense.
there isn't anything that describes today how we could do it. We can't.
Well, look. The thing is, it would cost a lot of money to quarry stones like that. Could we do it? Yes, but again, it would cost a lot of money. And the question would be, why would you want to do that? It makes no sense. It's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quarry 1,000-ton stones. Right? First, you have to quarry them. Then you have to make sure that you quarry them just right, because if there's even the slightest imperfection within the stone, and it cracks, well, there goes all that work. So not really interested anymore. Thank you very much. And you have to quarry it just right, because it could actually crack under its own weight.
Yeah.
If you store it just wrong, or if you lift it just wrong, or whatever, make any of 100 different mistakes. And again, the question would be asked in relation to the effort: why do it this way? I mean, first of all, we would have to build a crane especially for that load. So can we do that? Yes, but you have to build it. It's a custom-built crane, so you can't just buy it off the shelf. These cranes have to be built if you want to lift it, that is. And then you have to find yourself a nice, evenly distributed granite supply or other hard rock, a rock stock, if you will, that could be quarried this way. And again, the question comes down to just pour concrete, stupid, or smaller blocks, stupid, you know.
Yeah. Well, I've put into the YouTube just an image search. I've sent it to you as well, and you can easily see that the Aswan quarry and the unfinished obelisk scoop marks. This is in the same quarry as where they got those for the Jupiter Temple. It's really interesting that they should have those scoop marks.
Look, I mean, you have to ask yourself. I mean, obviously, this was a side. This was some kind of. This wasn't the purpose. So it was a side effect of whatever you were doing. And I'm looking at it, and I can't for the life of me think what tool or what process would cause for these marks to appear. So I'm just looking at it, what they've sent us. And they're literally like, it looks like, you know, when you've got ice cream, like a gelato container, and you you run your spoon across it a bit, looks a bit like that. Yeah,
it totally does.
And then, of course, on the other side, in the quarried rock, not in Lebanon per se, but is most of South Africa. South America. Actually, most of the monolithic sites, meaning large rock sites, had these protrusions. You know those little protrusions that look like little bumps. That and and they're on almost all the rocks, if not all the rocks. And why though? I mean, what is that? And I can see here there's one picture here which has like almost the negative of it in the rock. Yeah,
that's right.
In some cases here, there's this one by Martin Grace that there's a picture. And yeah, that is I don't know, Dave. It's just.
So I sent you another link, which is I've shared with the group in the chat, and this is one of the obelisks still there, and you can see the scoop marks both on top of the obelisk and in the cutting surround and on the side.
No, it has to be. It does. Look, the scoop is the only way to describe it.
It looks like scooped out. Yeah, totally. I mean, everyone knows it as the scoop marks.
Yeah. Yeah, these people had an amazing way with stones. Like we can't replicate their abilities to do this.
Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up because that was something else. Now, still, not still in Africa anymore, but we're going back to Africa right now. The water levels have dropped in a year by a third. Remember how we saw the Hoover Dam lake and tributaries, no rain, and they'd gone past the ability of the dam to produce hydropower, right? And even supply towns with water. It was awful. and there was 3 states that take water from the Hoover Dam, Lake Mead, as it's known. But now in Africa, it's their turn not to get any rain. And I think we're getting all the rain. We're getting more rain than we've ever had, and they're not getting any. And their Lake Harriep has lost a considerable amount. I'll give you the link, Mickey, so you can see it. Actually, I'll put it in the chat room. At 49 seconds, there's a side-by-side of what it looks like, and it's dropped 30 feet on the exit of it, and it was, millions of litres per second was pouring over it, and it was always full. Now it's not. And it's pretty tragic to see what the effects will be downstream, but also of the use of the dam itself, and how it's used for for the power and also water sources. As it falls, the water gets less clean, right? It's pretty awful. So I'm going to be a typical media person. Our thoughts and prayers are for those people affected by it. And that's what I'm going to say. But we are seeing this around the world. We had the droughts first, then they stopped for us. Then it went to Europe and North America, and it looks like they've settled down. Now it's in Africa. Let's hope it doesn't come this way again, because this is the point that Meki and I make a lot, and that is that the climate refugees, the people who can no longer live where they live, and they've lived there for quite some time, hundreds of years, even with our modern technology of building dams and to support more people, we've lived there, and now we're seeing evidence again that that it's going. It may very well come to you, the place where you live. Yeah, that's the nicest way of putting it. So I'm gonna skip to my next story. Unless you have something to contribute, Becky?
Go. No, all good.
All right, cool. This one concerns Israel and Gaza and the people of Gaza. And this is the US military have decided to, let's call it a humanitarian, savior act. They're now parachuting in MREs, so ready-to-eat meals, out of the back of, they're probably Hercules or something. And so they're flying those in because it's been witnessed. You've seen the media that as soon as the aid trucks from the UN go in, people climb aboard them and start tearing off the pallets and what's on the pallets, and the roads narrow because of people crowding around the trucks until the trucks can't go any further, and then they're completely robbed of all of their cargo. They never get to the destination. Now you can't just shoot people because they're hungry, because they're already hungry.
What happens, Dave? What happens when you take law and order away from a country? What happens? You have a country without law and order. Whoa! What a shock! What? Who said that? Who? What? How could that be?
So they're saying cartels are stealing the food and then selling it.
Well, of course they are.
Yeah. Well, it was free, but
there you
go.
Look, I hate to be I told you so. This is exactly what happened in Iraq. Exactly. 100%. You take away the system of governance, and it might be oppressive. I'm not saying, Saddam Hussein was a great guy, don't get me wrong, right? But he kept the country, from eating itself, really, right? Mm-hmm. And there was law and order of a sort, right? I mean, if you're part of a minority, that's too bad for you, I guess, but what happened after he was removed, and the birth of ISIS, more or less, and the ISIS caliphate, let's call it, is directly attributable to removing him and destroying law and order. Now, Gaza, for all its shortcomings and failures and whatnot, was governed and had a modicum of law and order, right? It had functioning infrastructure, functioning water, functioning electricity, functioning food supply, functioning, police, even, right?
Yeah.
Hospitals, etc. That's all gone. That's 30,000, apparently. 30,000 Gazans have been killed.
Yeah.
And Israel claims about 10,000 Hamas fighters. I mean, that's a lot. I didn't know. But if they've killed 10,000 Hamas fighters, then Hamas is pretty much done, or close to being done, because they didn't have that much. They didn't have all that many fighters to begin with. Hezbollah much bigger, Hamas not so big. But what we're seeing now, and to Dave's point, that there should be criminal elements that take it upon themselves to profiteer, maybe to enrich themselves in the misery, in the misery
like
of others.
Mad Max, Mickey.
Well, it is like that, right? If you're strong and you can survive, you know what you got to do? You got to be strong and survive.
That's right.
That's what you're gonna do. And then we shouldn't be surprised about it. But you know what? And Dave and I discussed this before the show. In fact, what this reminds me of, in some ways, is the Berlin blockade. I don't know if you probably. Well, I'm actually too young to have seen it. I was born somewhat after, but in the years 1948 to 1949, what happened was that the Soviets blocked access to Berlin. This was obviously after World War II, when everything had been divided into different zones, and rail, road, water, you couldn't get into Berlin, even though the Allies were controlling it at the time, right? The French, British, and American, and a few others. But yeah, so they blocked it. So what did the Americans do? They airdropped supplies.
And you know Berlin. What? I've got an image of that.
Perfect. Just pop it in the chat. That's what we're seeing here. I mean, the thing is, Israel is blocking access to Gaza. They've shut down all the borders. That's it, right? I mean, they're letting a trickle of refugees out, if I understand it correctly. But not much is going in, because going in would mean you're supporting Hamas. Never mind the 2 million Palestinians, and there's still 1 million, by the way, in Rafah. And if the ground offensive in Rafah should eventuate, which I think it will, right, the death toll of 30,000 is going to pale in comparison to what will actually happen there, right? So yeah, I mean, this is really nuts if you think about it. So the United States are probably the biggest supporter of Israel in the world, right? Politically, diplomatically, even aid-wise in military aid, etc. Biggest supporter. But even they have to resort to airdropping stuff in. Now that's not cheap. If they could just ship aid there and they just truck it in, that's a lot cheaper. But if you have to get your big planes up in the air and you start dropping in supplies, and I saw the pictures of the parachuted items. There's quite a bit of stuff that came in, I think. Now I don't know how much, but there's a lot, right? You have to say, I mean, really? So America has, what that means though is that America has zero power to sway Israel one way or the other.
That's right.
None.
That's my main point here.
Right? You think, oh, well, America, you know what? Okay, fine. I open the border and let's let 1,000 trucks go in. Sure. Thank you for your support. No. It's not. This is not what Netanyahu's doing. Netanyahu goes, I'll give you the birdie. I'll flip you the bird. You can do whatever you want. You go, sure. You'll be lucky if I don't shoot you down flying over Gaza, right? And that's just it boggles the mind. But that's what but again, this is propaganda, Dave. This is good for Biden in a way. All right, he says, "Oh, look at me! I'm such a humanitarian. I'm dropping it in. I mean, Israel might not like it, but I'm doing it anyway because it's the right thing, America. I'm doing the right thing." Yeah, sure, yeah. And now the U.S. officials are saying that Israel is close to a ceasefire deal. If honestly, I give it odds of 1,000 against
Mm-hmm.
that that there will be a
So
ceasefire.
1 to
There's no
1,000
way.
against. Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's just not going to happen. Why? Why would Israel do that? I mean, they're close to their goal, which is to depopulate Gaza. Well, depopulated of Palestinians, but depopulate nonetheless. Why would I give? That's awesome. I mean, hello, that's my whole platform. I mean, I don't care what else you do.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
It's my platform. It's what I run on, gentlefolk. I don't care.
I thought they just wanted a direct access to the ocean. That's all I thought. That's what. If you look at what they're doing, sure. They could build their own canal.
So, it's not quite like Russia and Ukraine, but it's Israel and the larger Middle East will never see peace. It's not going to happen. Okay, it just will not happen. We will never, ever, 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 ever have peace in this area of the world. Okay, it's impossible.
All right. So
I mean, Tel Aviv is actually on the water. I don't know if you know this, but it's actually Tel Aviv is actually
Mm-hmm.
and Gaza. I mean, I look at Gaza, right, which is down in the south on the border to Egypt. It actually isn't a huge chunk of land.
No.
It really isn't. Okay? I don't know if you guys have ever looked at the map. Just have a look at the map. It's in comparison to the rest of Israel, it's tiny. It's like Manhattan. Actually, no, not even. Manhattan is much tinier. It's a tiny little, like Minnesota compared to the United States. Right? That's probably more like it. It's a very small part of Israel, tiny, and it's really the only enclave within Israel that is under, I guess, Palestinian control. Then you got the West Bank. By the way, once Gaza is done, the next target is the West Bank.
Yep.
No doubt at all. So if you look at the West Bank, that's a big chunk of land.
Yeah, it is.
Jerusalem is sort of in half in and half out of the West Bank. Bethlehem happens to be in the West Bank. So we're talking about the West Bank of the Jordan River here. Sorry, I should really say that. That's what it's referring to.
Right, there's a map on the screen for people.
Yeah. So just have a look at that, and that's a big chunk of land. So Gaza will be done at some point because they're not Russia, the Israelis. They don't mess about. They've got the latest equipment, right? And once they're done with that, I guarantee you, they will set their sights on the West Bank. But that's just what I think.
Like I said, they're just gaining beachfront territory, and West Bank. Absolutely, I completely agree. You know what? The more I look at it, and I'm not on anyone's side here, right? I'm not. You have a persecuted people for centuries or longer who finally get a hammer and every problem's a nail. To the view of the person with the hammer, right? I'm just going, well, you don't like us. I'm just going to keep hitting you until you're all gone. I'm sorry if I'm oversimplifying it, but tell me I'm wrong.
Not from me. You're not going to hear that from me, my friend.
Right? And so, look, I hate to say it, but if the world can't negotiate a stoppage of this, then the issue arises that the people who have been persecuted for so long become their own enemy. And I don't want that to happen to anybody. Sure, retribution. Understood, that's what war is. I get it. I get why you started it. But I could also say the same to, I know why the US went into World War II. Very similar things have been said. I'm not saying I'm saying them, but have been said about the two because of Pearl Harbor and what information seems to have come forward. I'm not saying I know anything, but where was all the military across the border to stop this invasion in the first place? I'm just saying, right? It all seemed just too convenient. I'm not going to say any more about it because it's a very controversial topic, and I don't want to be, misquoted. I like it. I want to take the middle route and not believe either side, and just hope that it all comes to an end quickly, just like Putin's, I'm going over into Ukraine to kill the Nazis. Oh, okay, you're going to give the land back? Not so much.
I'm not as inclined to avoid controversy as Dave is, so I'm going to tell you what I think. So the problem, that's all I'm going to say, we move on to something else, but the problem here is this, right? This is really a big problem. There isn't anyone wrong or right here. And this is really important to understand. They're only positions. People have positions. And I mean, not just people, but peoples. They're position of peoples. They have, positions on what is right and what is wrong for them. And they will fight to the death to see their position, become reality. Because right now, it's all just positions. Israel wants to exist until the end of time. Great. A lot of people don't want Israel to exist until the end of time, right? That's their prerogative. And others, the Palestinians want their own state, and the Israelis, or at least Netanyahu, doesn't really think that's a good idea. So these are positions. And if you look at the background and you understand what is going on, you realize, well, it's really hard to say who's right or wrong here, right? Even, it doesn't matter how far back in history you go. Who's right or wrong? I don't know. Again, positions. And ultimately, someone is going to prevail, right? Or we will have this kind of situation forever, which is not a good thing. But someone is going to prevail, and that'll be just that. You know what I mean? It'll just be, one day someone is going to come out of this conflict as a clear, winner. I guess. Then that'll be that. That'll be the reality. It's like it's similar. Do you know who the Ainu are? The Ainu. The Ainu are the indigenous people of Japan.
Oh,
you've probably never.
Were
heard
they the ones that were in the north?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they were actually all over.
Yeah, but then they retreated to the north.
Yeah. And they are culturally and physically distinct from their Japanese neighbors.
Mm.
Or were. I mean, now there's a lot of interbreeding anyway. Whatever. They were in Hokkaido and Sakhalin and the Kuril Islands. So sort of, up into Siberia, if you will. Okay. But the point is, you don't hear much about them. I mean, you might be a scholar, you might have some interest in it, but you would never know. Well, Japan is full of Japanese. That's who is there, the Japanese, right? No. The Ainu were the first, but the Japanese prevailed. Now they're just a tiny little minority that nobody really cares about anymore, right? So, what do you make of that? Well, what happens is, this is reality. Life happens, right? I mean, people say Neanderthal is extinct. I don't know if that's entirely true, but for the most part, we don't see them around anymore, right?
Well, they're not around, but we're lathered in their DNA.
Yeah, well, we are. You're correct, 100% correct. Having said that, though, I mean, where's our outrage at that? Let's rectify that. Let's, did Homo
Let's
sapiens
resurrect them and get them going
kill all the other thoughts. We should have some kind of socially aware, some woke people advocating the rights of Neanderthal to exist. No, I'm not being facetious, but you understand what I'm doing here. As time marches on, some things just become realities. It's just what it is. Okay, and you can stand on your head. I mean, there were people in the British Isles before the Celts got there.
Mm-hmm.
And we know this because they left these little villages with. These were small people. They lived largely underground. I'm not saying they're hobbits, but they had these tunnels, and a normal grown person, a 5 foot, even a 5 foot person,
Can't
would have
fit.
a hard time fitting into those tunnels.
That's right.
So they literally were little people in Ireland,
Mhm.
because that's where they were pushed, out of the rest of, out of Britain, up north, further north.
Maybe there with the leprechauns.
Every
Quite possibly. huh?
legend starts somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
And because they were underground dwellers, maybe that's where our legend of the dwarves come from, mining gold, who knows?
Yeah.
But the point is this, right? You can stand on your head and deny it. We have the artifacts, they're there. We haven't really found the people. But clearly, nobody would build tunnels that don't serve them a purpose. It's like, well, no, let's build something really small and fool generations, thousands of years from now. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Let's do that.
Yes, Liam, that's a good idea. No, it's not. It's a terrible idea. But again, history marches on, and this will happen here as well. In 100 years and 500 years, first of all, we're all going to be beige. Just putting that out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually going to write an article about it on LinkedIn. I'll do that, because I can tell you, Australia is probably a good case as an example. When I came to Australia in 1988, a long time ago, it was very Aussie, like a lot of Anglo-Saxon kind of heritage, and it was still very predominant. There's there's a Chinatown here, and there's different ethnic groupings in different suburbs that existed, right? There wasn't a lot of dating across ethnic or racial lines. There was some, of course, but not a lot. I remember this because I dated across all kinds of lines. And I remember the looks I used to get walking down George Street. Oy vey. But now, I look at my kids' school, 30 years on, the most common partnership
It's a mixed
partnership.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the most common one, right?
Yeah.
And I guess this will carry on because people will mix more and more, and at some point you will not be able to say really what your original heritage was. I mean, it'll be a whole bunch of stuff like me, for example, right?
Mhm.
In Europe, and it'll just be everybody will be beige, and that'll be a good day, in my opinion. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, I'm channeling my wife and saying eggshell.
Yes.
Because not off-white. You can't. Oh, that looks like off-white. And she goes,
Yeah.
and I go, is it? She goes, no, it's really eggshell. Is it?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
you're not allowed to say beige or
No.
off-white. You have to
No.
actually use other descriptions for it. That's fine. I understand that I'm a guy. Even though I do see at least 256 colours, to be honest with you. I can't name any of them. They're all a subset of the primary for me, and they just lean into one of the other colours. That's fine.
A little greener.
It's a little
Bluer.
greener. Yeah, that's right. It's kind of bluish yellow, right? And she'll go, oh no, and she'll just say the word. She has them all stacked up, and look, that's why she would have been better at picking berries and picking fruits and foraging, because she'd find only the ripe ones.
There you go.
Or
Now,
the
since you brought up
the perfect colour ones.
you brought up political correctness, and sorry, I have to say this.
Here we go.
Sort of related, but not really. Everybody knows Red Dwarf.
Yes, I do.
So there was a Red Dwarf post in my Facebook thing. Anyway,
Oh,
sorry.
was it?
Yeah, it's something Red Dwarf, whatever. And I was looking at a picture of all this cast now, what they look like now.
Yes.
And one of the comments, the only comments that really popped up was, "Oh, you can't really say Red Dwarf. You have to say Red Little People." And I said, "No." So I put a comment there. That's no, you can't. What you have to say is this: Red Vertically Challenged People. Oh no, sorry. I said Red Vertically Diverse. That's what I said. Red Vertically Diverse People. Thank you very much. That's what you need to say instead of Red Dwarf.
And that's very funny, because if I'd seen the post, I'd be boiling. My blood would boil, because it's talking about a star.
It does. That's the funny thing here.
It's not a red giant. It's a red dwarf star.
Yes, there's also white dwarfs.
That's right.
It's all good. Oh, that's right.
Blue giants. It doesn't matter.
But
But hey, if you only read the headline.
But you got to go with the whole. You got to go whole hog. You can't say little people. You got to say vertically diverse people. That's what you have to say. Right.
And for all of those friends, and I'm reaching out to everyone, our listeners, when I say, to all of your friends who only read the headline and argued themselves blue in the face without ever reading the article, that you've now unfriended because they're an idiot. Or they unfriended you because they thought you were being stupid. Right? Oh, how I miss those days. My friends list is much smaller now, I'll tell you that much.
That's the truth. I mean, but you know, it's funny. We really have to. I mean, I don't really do it. I'll be honest with you, I don't do it. I should, but I don't. We all have to watch what we say. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm a child of the '60s. I didn't have a seatbelt. Okay, I didn't have to wear a helmet when I rode my bike. I climbed trees. I fell over a wall when I was like 5 and broke my arm.
Yep.
That's what happened. There's no parents in sight. Just me and my gang.
As long as we came home by the time the streetlights came on, Mickey, that was the rule.
So don't talk to me about woke and any of that. Okay. It's a fad. It's like having pink sunglasses, you know, and perms for men. That's what.
Hypercolor. What about knitted all-in-ones? Oh, what about family? Family knitted all-in-ones.
Now you're talking, brother.
Matching safari suits, Mickey.
That's cool.
I had one.
Yeah. I would drape myself in velvet if I could. It was socially acceptable. That's George from Seinfeld. I would drape myself in velvet.
That's true. Well, I've got one from Sleeper. You want velvet? I've got velvet. That was the robot salesman who's got a Jewish accent, who also starts arguing with the other robot with a Jewish accent. It's very funny.
I got another velvet one for you from Coming to America. The old Jewish guy, also played by Eddie Murphy, touches the lion fur that Eddie Murphy, the prince, is wearing, and goes, "Oh, that's nice. Is it velvet?"
That's right. That was in the barber shop.
That's it. You gotta love it. What?
So there's some really weird things, Mackie, and what happens that I'm more disappointed with every day as days pass is that they can't be funny anymore. We're not allowed to make those jokes anymore. The stereotypical character is now woked away. There isn't one. I know there's a new Ghostbusters movie and I'm terrified to watch it. I'm going to watch it and I'll take my brain off and leave it. I'll check that when I buy my popcorn. Hopefully I get a key and I can return back to my brain when the movie's finished. Kind of like that.
Eddie Murphy cannot be woke. Sorry, not Eddie Murphy. Bill Murray.
No,
cannot. He can't be. Bill Murray is Bill Murray. He's who he is. I mean, go back to Caddyshack. That's Bill Murray. That's Bill Murray. In every movie that he's ever been in, he's played Bill Murray. Okay, Bill Murray has only ever played Bill Murray. He's never played anyone else in the movies.
There's a few classic actors, Mackie, that I think you could assign that same value to. They could get a pin. We could send them a pin. Shiny Side Out declares you nothing but Bill Murray, or nothing but Eddie Murphy, or what's the one that did the mask? Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. Yeah.
Here's another one, another classic.
Yeah. So you can tell, and you know what? Great, good. Whereas others, I mean, you go, holy moly, that's just. Are you the same person? What? And my head goes off to those people as well, of course.
In fact, the guy that played Zorg from Fifth Element. Altman?
Of course, Gary Oldman.
Yeah, I wouldn't see him at all in any of the work he did.
No,
I didn't know he was just a character, such a good character actor, just amazing to watch.
Same with Ray Fiennes. He played the commandant in Schindler's List of the Lager, of the concentration camp. He played. He actually gained something like 20 kilos to play the part. Yeah. Anyway, but
as
look,
soon as
yeah,
you
so-
said the commandant, all I could think of was Hogan. I couldn't help it.
Nice. But yeah, look, it's crazy, man.
Oh, look, yeah, it is, and I'm sorry I brought it up. I know that's another 10 minutes down the toilet, but hey, this is what live radio is, and I wanted to. This is kind
Yes,
of a
it's
somber
down the
note.
toilet. That's like that's what.
If you hear a flushing sound, just ignore it. Just ignore it.
It's our career going down the drain.
Oh, that means I get my spot on the Love Boat or Fantasy Island.
Right.
To plan, boss, to plan. That's what I would get. See, as your career winds up and you're circling the drain, you would get the invitations from those two shows. I used to love it. I was just the right age to be mesmerized by a large ship on the ocean with a perfectly flat pool. The pool had not even a ripple in it. I'm going to tell you, that's a lie. That's such a lie. You get on a cruise ship and leave Sydney, and immediately, whatever the ocean is, it's the ocean in the pool. You got 4 meter swell. There's 4 meter swell in the pool. Sometimes you've got to drain the pool because it's too dangerous to be in it.
Called physics.
Yeah. Have you ever held an ice cream container in like a big bucket full of water and you walked and then suddenly it's splashing all around? That's what it does.
It's inertia, everybody. Again, physics.
Physics, ice science, Mickey. So the pool was also filled to within a centimetre of the edge. That's not true. In the pool on the ships that I've been on, the water doesn't start for at least 4 feet from the edge because it's splashing about so much you can't put any more water in it. Hilarious. I've seen people struggle to try and get to the ladder when the wave gets there to hold on, and then they get sloshed away from it again. I want to get out. Right? It's, hey, Mickey, they're those kind of tales like you mentioned earlier when we grew up. I remember being on a slide that was so high, it must have been 4 meters tall. No rail, and it was made of metal.
Metal. That's
Metal.
right.
Yeah. And you couldn't sit on it, it was too hot. But there was no safety railing, and at the bottom it was just...
Safety railing.
Yeah, right.
I spit on your safety railing.
There was no recycled rubber tyres as nice soft matting in the playground. No. They had some concrete posts, just poured concrete to hold the two bottom things, like the stays for the slide. However, it was just dry, hard dirt that it usually had gravel and stuff in it. If you came off and you came off real hard, you went home. Like, you had to walk that off. No, so if you went home, if you couldn't stop your little brother crying, right? Which I saw a lot, or little sister crying. But otherwise, you just walked it off, and then you got back on it again. Mm-hmm. Or play gym equipment that was 3 meters in the air, you had to climb up to be able to get onto it. And then if you fell down, it was onto concrete. I loved that. That was tremendous. That was my primary school right there. Anyway, I wanted to make a somber note, Mickey, because we've only got 5 minutes left. And it's been a whole month since Samantha Murphy went missing. Mother of, I think, 2 or 3, and missing a husband now. They've not been able to find her. Police have hunted. Helicopters have done their infrared, their IR, their FLIR, if you will, looked around everywhere. They had some bleeps from her phone pinging, they say, pinging the towers. Well, the towers can triangulate pretty readily to your location within a couple of meters. And that helps and I know this is true because the emergency services use that triangulation to pinpoint the person should they lose consciousness and not be able to communicate any further. The ambulance services get that, location, and they can send someone to it, which is really, really important. Especially in Australia with all of our deadly creatures, you might start a sentence saying, "I think I've been bitten by a snake," and then that's the end of you. And they've got a very small window to get to you with an anti-venom. Hopefully they can do that. So, or it's a funnel web, Mickey. And people go, "Oh, people haven't died of funnel web." Yes, they have. Yes, they have. There was a young girl who put a shoe on inside the house, but a funnel web had crawled into it and bit her. And the parents go, "Why is she crying? I don't know why she's crying. She's crying." And then she started profusely sweating and vomiting. And your window for success there is really small. Right. So, so there's now a tracker from the Central Coast, home of Dave, that's me, and he is an expert. He's led several searches for the different agencies around Australia, and he's put teams together, and now he's hunting through, this is 4 hours ago, he's hunting through the unsearched terrain, looking for push-throughs and things like that he's trying to identify, and hopefully they'll find something. But a month, you're not living. They're going to find, hopefully, they're going to find something which will give closure to the family. But, Meki, it's horrifying that this should be the case. And just before I hand it to you, I did watch the David Pilates the show he did on YouTube. So a big shout out to him and his YouTube channel and all of his work and his books and all the research he does. And he was also stumped, waiting for her kind of like to show up again in a place that, alive and well, in a place that they've already searched. But I think the window's gone too far.
He actually said that, now there's not much chance of finding her alive.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, so Pilates had it on the show, but I actually read that this tracker came up to help, and in fact, I buy the Guardian weekly on a regular basis. It's weekly published. Used to be a newspaper, now it's a magazine, at 5 times the price, but whatever. And there was an article on her, like a big feature article, and it's not Guardian Weekly Australian edition, sure enough, but of course it's a UK publication, so that story would have also been gone across to Europe. It's just captivated people, because it's very hard to explain. I mean, if they had found a trace of anything, you'd go, okay, we got a trace of something. It's like the MH371, right?
The 370, yep.
Sorry, 370, where it's poof.
It's 10 years.
And now she's gone a month, and this is not. Well, it doesn't really matter, I guess, but it's not a massive area. It's not huge. This area, right? And you think that something like some home camera, some CCTV, something, anything or some DNA or piece of clothing or whatever, right? Or watch or phone if she had it with her. Anything could have pinged at some point somewhere, right? Nothing. Zero. There's actually they have no clue. And that I find, Dave, the most astounding thing, that there is absolutely nothing at all that is giving us anything here. And you're going, that's a little unusual. yes it is.
So if she had an Apple phone and she's a runner, she'd more likely have one of those fitness apps, and she had the watch and her phone on a person. Yeah. And I imagine that it would be sending live data wherever she was, even if she was hit by a motor vehicle and then bundled into that motor vehicle and sped away. You would imagine that there would have been some telemetry there.
I think so, right?
But just like walking through a portal, she's disappeared. There's the music. Oh my goodness. All right, well, this is the end of the first hour. We're going to come back after a very short break, and we're going to start up a brand new YouTube. Do me a favor and like, share, and subscribe and comment to our YouTube videos, because it does help with the algorithm. Thank you, and we'll see you in a second.